My brother-in-law, married to my sister, is a general contractor. About 10 years ago, my dad and brother were building a deck at my parents' home. They asked my brother-in-law if they could borrow his skid loader, but he said no. They prepared the ground as best they could without the skid loader, but got to the point they couldn't go on without it. They went to my sis's house to ask again, but found out brother-in-law went out of town. They talked my sis into letting them borrow it, so she took them down to his construction lot and they hooked it up to Dad's truck. I'm not sure about this next part since I don't know much about towing, but from what I was told, Dad's truck needed to be bigger and more powerful to tow the skid loader on the dump trailer, so he lost control and wrecked. The truck, trailer and skid loader were totaled. The insurance was barely enough to cover the medical costs and Dad's truck. There was none left over to cover brother-in-law's stuff. When he got back to town, he exploded. He threatened to sue and things just went downhill from there. My parents aren't rich and he wouldn't have gotten anything, so in the end Sis talked him into letting it go. However, from that day on, he wouldn't have anything to do with our family. He doesn't come for birthdays, holidays, nothing at all. Next month is our parents' 50th anniversary and we're planning a big family gathering to celebrate. We're also chipping in to send our parents on a cruise to Mexico because they've never been out of the country. I spoke to Sis about it the other day and she said she's coming with the kids, but brother-in-law isn't coming. I was fine with that, but when we discussed their portion of the cruise money, I heard him yelling in the background to deduct their portion from the cost of the skid loader and dump trailer. That made me angry, so after my call with my sister, I called brother-in-law and told him to get over himself. I told him that Dad and Bro made a mistake, but that was 10 years ago and he needs to let it go. He said he'll let it go when they gave him the money he lost. I told him he was an idiot for holding on to a grudge and putting money in the way of a family relationship. Sis called me a few minutes ago and said they weren't coming and that I was out of line. We argued for a bit and that's where it stands. I don't think I'm wrong for telling him to let go of the past, but they're not coming to the anniversary party, so now I'm not sure. Wait, so you'll have the funds to pay for an expensive cruise, but a decade later can't pay him back? Your family stole $50,000 plus in work equipment from your brother-in-law. They didn't pay him back, showed zero remorse, wasted money on crap, and he should just get over it. You and your family messed with his livelihood and clearly don't care how it's impacted him, so why should he want to be around you? Yep, they nicely washed their hands of their misdeed and haven't bothered paying a single cent back in 10 years. I understand if they were poor, but that doesn't diminish a sense of responsibility. Instead of pitching in for a bloody cruise, they should all be pitching in to pay the brother-in-law back and try to fix their broken relationship. The biggest surprise here is that he stayed married to OP's sister. Not just that, I'm actually surprised insurance paid out anything. In the UK, this would be an at-fault claim and more likely than not, outside the scope of insurance because they were towing beyond their vehicle limit. Parents should be grateful that all he's done is ignore them. I would have sued. Yeah, the part where there was the insurance was barely enough to cover the medical costs and the truck got me. No, there was only enough money for medical expenses and the skid loader and not enough for the truck. Why was the truck the first priority and not the thing they stole? They essentially stole from brother-in-law a second time there and don't seem the slightest bit remorseful. I'm guessing if they're the kind of people who do this sort of thing that this is probably not the only incident. You are the idiot, OP. Your whole darn family's the idiot. Chip in to reimburse this man, then you can talk about forgiving a 10-year-old debt of this magnitude. And now you want him to contribute to cruise and celebrate on behalf of your family. Of course he said no, given that your family has treated him like a carpet to freeload responsibility to and step on. Imagine that. My 24 female boyfriend, Zach's 24 mother, passed away when he was 11 years old. His father worked a lot, so Zach's older sister, Elise, now 30 female, basically became the woman of the house, for lack of a better term. She was extremely parentified, and I do feel for her on that front. In addition, she went to a local college. Because of all this, Zach and Elise are very close, and he has a lot of respect for her. Zach and I have dated for nearly a year. We're very different in terms of backgrounds. He is much more reserved than I am. Before me, he spent many of his weekends gaming or hanging out with a small group of friends. I tend to go out. I work hard all week and want to enjoy the time I have off. Zach is a shy, somewhat nerdy guy, and I think I've broken him out of his shell a little, pushing him to do things out of his comfort zone. Elise and their father have made several comments about him changing. She's very nice and cordial when we see each other, but she's made several comments about Zach not needing to change who he is. Sunday, Zach invited me, some of his friends, his dad, sister, brother-in-law, and niece over to watch the game. At one point, vacations got brought up. I mentioned I was trying to convince him to go on a 2-day local cruise with me, as he's never been on one. Zach reminded me he's not the biggest fan of boats. I pointed out he's never been on one, and we could rent one to take out so he could get used to it. He was somewhat on the fence, and one of his buddies and I tried to help him see it wasn't so bad. Elise butted in and said, "If he doesn't want to go, then I'm sure you can find something else to do." I said I was pretty sure I could talk him into it. She asked why I wanted to go if he didn't want to. I said, of course I'd never try to force him to go, but it's just something to think about. She repeated that he didn't like boats and that I should respect that. I rolled my eyes, not really understanding why she was so adamant about this, and said she needed to relax. She's not his mother, she shouldn't care this much about the situation. Elise was clearly upset by the comment but didn't say anything else. The subject got changed and I thought all was well. A little later, Zach asked for my help getting something out of his room. Once in there, he told me I was out of line for how I spoke to his sister. I said she was the one that was getting up in our business. Zach said that I kept pushing it and got upset when I said, well, clearly she and your dad didn't push you enough to try new things. He said I was being disrespectful and needed to apologize to Elise. I laughed and said no, she needs to butt out. Zach finally asked me to leave. I did, aggravated. I really thought my friends would be on my side, but they said I crossed a line. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You're saying I managed to break him out of his shell says a lot here. You're constantly pushing him to do things he wouldn't necessarily do otherwise, and I think this is not healthy. What's wrong with being shy and not wanting to do some things? Your way isn't the only way. And you pushed him on this occasion too, and you were disrespectful to his sister. This got me too. No one ever says that they managed to get their extrovert partner into their shell a little, so why is the expectation that shy and introverted people should be made uncomfortable to accommodate extroverts? His likes, hobbies, and preferred ways of spending time are just as valid as yours, and if you genuinely value him, you need to appreciate all of him, not just the parts you can shape to your liking. Worse, she said to his sister that raised him after his mother died that you're not his mother. Bringing up her boyfriend's dead mother was a crappy thing to do. OP knew this would be hurtful and brought it up hoping for an impact. Hopefully, the impact is she gets dumped. You are the idiot, OP. Even your friends told you so. Grow up. I'm the breadwinner in our home. My wife has the much tougher job of being a stay-at-home mom and wrangling our offspring. She works hard to make sure we have everything we need. Our budget is pretty simple. We put away about 15% of my earnings every month. Then we pay all the bills. Whatever's left, we split and we can use it however we want. I like to use mine to work on my hobbies or treat us to a night out. I pay for the babysitter and whatever activity we do that night. She uses hers to go to a spa or to buy herself pretty things that make her happy. Every once in a while, she'll ask if we can send money to her family. Not because her family is homeless or anything, they just earn less than we do. Like, in November, she asked if we could give her brother $500. He wanted to get his kids a PS5 for Christmas. I think that was the last straw. I told her that we could, but it would be the last time that I contributed money to give away to people who just asked her for it. December went fine, but in January, one of her friends had car problems and needed to rent a car to run errands and drive her kids around. So my wife gave her money. When she told me about it, I said I was proud of her for sticking to our agreement that any money she decided to give away would come from her fun money and not ours. She looked really sour and asked if I was really not going to help her pay for her spa day with her friends. I said yes, because I'd already spent money on a new drone. She asked if we could take money from our savings account to pay. Again, I said no, because that is for emergencies and household expenses. She's mad at me for not helping her friend. I pointed out that she could have kept her money and driven her friend around on errands to pick up her kids. She said I was being a jerk and slammed the door. For the record, my kids and I are still playing games on our PS4 and Switch. She gives away our money to be a big shot. I don't have that need. So she's happy to help out her family and friends when it comes out of your pocket, not just hers. Yeah, she's being an idiot for expecting you to keep on footing the bill. The fact that date nights come from your half makes this even worse. You're not an ATM, and she needs to learn to live within her means rather than supporting friends and family in that way. Yeah, she wants to be Johnny Big Potatoes with her money. That's her business and you don't have to support that. She does not get to unilaterally decide what to do with the family's money. That needs a conversation and agreement first, unless a genuine emergency, of course. If she's upset with how she spent her money, she can control that. OP is not interfering. I think OP and people like you are uncharitable about why she would do this. When you grow up poor or lower middle class, the favor economy is critical to your survival. You help out others when you have money, and they ask so that when you get hit with a random medical bill for your kid or get in a car accident, you can ask back and avoid losing your house. OP's wife is planning for the unexpected, where crap hits the fan and they need to rely on their community to avoid destitution. They should also define exactly what help is. A friend needs to rent a car or she loses her job. That's help. Someone wants to live beyond his means and buy a $500 gaming system. That's not help. The OP is not the idiot, but yeah, they need to have a frank discussion over what constitutes help, how much they can put in the help/fund each month, why their emergency savings is not going to be used for Lady Bountiful spa days. Wanting a back rub isn't an emergency. I, female 19, am in my first year of college living with a roommate, Katie, female 19. Katie speaks 3 languages, English, German and Spanish, and she makes it her whole personality. Whenever I ask what she's watching something in another language, so obviously I can't watch it. She's always listening to music on her headphones, and when I tried to bond and listen to what she was listening to, it was in another language again and I couldn't stand it. Her friends all speak one of the languages she does. Whenever I hear them, I can't join the conversation because they mix everything, so I'm left out of their convo. The other day I saw a new book on her desk, a Portuguese course book. I asked her about this, and she said she's taking private Portuguese classes starting in February. I told her that she has to let it go and that she needs to develop her personality because speaking a language isn't a personality trait and she's just boring. She got really annoyed with me and told me that I was an idiot and to stop eavesdropping on her convos. I told her she was boring and had to fake her personality. Now she's not speaking to me. My friends are split, some agree with me and some agree with her. Who's the idiot here? Am I the idiot for telling the truth? You are the idiot. Jealousy is not a personality either. She has a personality. She has friends, interests and hobbies. Just because you don't like her music or can't keep up with her friends doesn't mean those things don't count. Your roommate has an interest and is engaging with it and with people who share that interest. Nothing is stopping you from also enjoying movies in another language. You could have asked her to turn on the subtitles. Between the two of you, you sound like the boring one, to be honest. You're lurking around your roommate, judging her for having interests that don't involve you. You were needlessly nasty to her because you can't speak the same language as she does. One of you needs to work on her personality, but spoiler, it's not your roommate. Also super controlling. Why is OP critiquing her roommate's hobbies, friends and musical tastes and thinking she has a right to demand the changes? They're roommates, not life partners. This girl doesn't have to include OP in her conversations or movie nights. OP, maybe do some self-reflection because it sounds like you may be insecure and you're projecting that on your roommate. I'm getting married in a few months and we're about to send out invitations. My fiancé's side is done and we've worked out friends. The only thing left is my side. I thought I had everyone, but then I was reminded about my much older brother, Alex. Surprising because I thought everyone hated him. I was too young to remember him very much. Still, from what I remember and what people said for years after, he may have been the oldest, but there were no friends for him in the family and it was very mutual. They said he was troubled, overdramatic and couldn't make a good decision. There was never a day without an argument. Some of it may have involved some girl and many accusations were thrown around. He moved out at 18 when my sister and I were 4 and 8. After that, he cut contact with us. Since everyone stopped talking about him a few years later, I figured it was the same for them, but one of my aunts was keeping tabs on him. As time went on, the older relatives softened. For a few years, they've all wanted to reconcile things with Alex. It's been slow going, but within 2 years, he's shown interest in coming out for a visit. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out with the holidays, so now everyone really wants me to invite Alex to my wedding as a show of reconciliation to invite him back to the family, and so he can see everyone. I don't want to. I don't even know this guy and I don't want my wedding to turn into some prodigal son family reunion. My family says I can't possibly know what was happening back then. They've changed their story to everything, just personality differences and normal teenage behavior that was getting blown out of proportion on both sides because he was the oldest son and the family was very traditional. Everyone is begging me to do it. My family was even offering to pay the cost to have him and his wife there, even though they weren't thrilled about his wife. Still, now they're upping it to paying half of the catering cost if he's included. I still don't want to, but now my fiancé thinks I'm stubborn and should just suck it up for that much of a discount. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and absolutely not. I wouldn't want my wedding to turn into some long-lost relative who comes back to the family thing either. And what if it doesn't go well? Long-lost son returns is a dynamic that will overshadow the ceremony. You and your wife deserve to be the center of attention for this day. Just say no. He's had years to reconcile with his family. Why does your wedding have to be the venue? What if he decides he still hates everybody and shows his butt and makes a big scene? Not just no, but heck no. If the family is so determined to make this happen, let them plan, organize and pay for a family reunion, or a big dinner, or lunch for goodness sake. Not your wedding. If folks want to reconnect, they've got 364 other days this year to do it. Not at your wedding. All of this. OP, you could agree to have him come out after your wedding when people are still in town so it doesn't draw focus from you, but it's really your choice. Honestly, I'd be curious about meeting him if I were you. If he left at 18, he was a child when everyone blamed him for the falling out in your family. You don't know him. He's a stranger. He might be great or not. This could go horribly wrong and cause a rift for years. There are better ways to start out your married life.